Aisha Moore sat alone on a cold plastic chair in the hospital corridor. It was past midnight. The lights above her flickered and buzzed, too bright for such a late hour. Rain ran down the tall windows in thin lines, blurring the city outside. The hallway smelled like disinfectant and something metallic. Aisha pulled the thin hospital gown tighter around her shaking body. Her hands would not stop trembling. She felt small, weak, like her body no longer belonged to her. A doctor walked toward her, his shoes quiet against the floor. He was a middle-aged man with tired eyes. He looked down the empty hallway before speaking, then leaned closer to her, lowering his voice. "This didn't come from stress," he said gently, "or food poisoning." Aisha looked up at him, confused. Her heart began to pound. "Someone's been putting something in your system," he continued. Again and again. The words didn't make sense at first. They floated in the air, heavy and unreal. Aisha blinked slowly. "Putting something?" she whispered. Her mind began to race. Images flashed through her head like broken glass. Her mother standing at the stove. Her mother smiling, warm and proud. A bowl pushed toward her. "Eat more, Aisha." Another spoonful added without asking. "You're too thin." A hand on her shoulder. "I worry about you." The doctor straightened slightly, holding a folder. "There are trace toxins in your blood," he explained. "Very small amounts. Not enough to kill you fast, but enough to weaken you over time. Enough to make you sick, tired, confused. Enough to slowly break your body down." Aisha's mouth went dry. Her ears rang. "So I'm not crazy?" she asked. "I'm not imagining this?" "No," he said softly. "You're not." He paused, then asked a question so quietly it almost felt gentle. "Who cooks for you?" The hallway seemed to tilt. Aisha opened her mouth, then closed it. Her throat tightened. Her eyes burned. "My mother," she whispered. The doctor's face didn't change, but something heavy settled in his eyes. He nodded once, as if that answer explained more than words ever could. Aisha stood up too quickly. The world spun. She rushed down the hall and pushed into the nearest bathroom. She barely made it to the sink before vomiting. Her body shook as she gripped the cold porcelain, tears falling freely now. This sickness felt different. This was not pain. This was betrayal. She rinsed her mouth and slowly lifted her head. Her reflection stared back at her from the mirror. Her skin looked pale. Her eyes looked older than they should have. There was fear there, but also something else. Understanding. The place she had run to for safety after her divorce. The home she had trusted without question. The woman she had believed loved her more than anyone else. Aisha pressed her hand to the mirror. The place she thought was safest might be the very thing that had been killing her. 6 months earlier. Aisha Moore believed she was strong. She was a divorce lawyer, known for standing up for women who had been lied to, controlled, or emotionally broken by their partners. In court, she was confident and sharp. She knew how to ask the right questions. She knew how to protect others. But when her own marriage ended, all that strength disappeared. The divorce left her empty, tired in a way sleep could not fix. She stopped eating well, stopped caring about her apartment, stopped believing she could handle life on her own. When her mother suggested she come home for a little while, Aisha agreed. "Just until you feel better," her mother had said. Evelyn Moore was in her late 50s. To the outside world, she was kind, generous, and selfless. Neighbors loved her. Relatives praised her. She was always the first to help, the first to offer food, the first to talk about how much she had sacrificed for her daughter. Behind closed doors, she was different. She liked control, not noise. Order, not chaos. She needed to feel needed. From the moment Aisha moved back into her childhood home, Evelyn took over everything. She unpacked Aisha's bags. She chose where Aisha would sleep. She decided what Aisha would eat. "You've lost so much weight," she said every morning. "You work too much," she said every night. "Let me take care of you," she repeated like a promise. Evelyn cooked every meal. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. She refused help in the kitchen. If Aisha tried to cook for herself, Evelyn laughed it off or gently pushed her aside. "You don't need to worry about that," she said. "That's my job." At first, Aisha felt grateful, safe, loved. Then her body started to change. She was tired all the time. Not normal tired, deep, heavy exhaustion that made it hard to think. At work, her mind felt slow. Simple words escaped her. She forgot meetings, forgot names. Her hair began to thin, coming out in clumps in the shower. Sometimes, the room would spin, and she would have to sit down quickly before she passed out. Once, she fainted in the hallway of her office. Doctors told her the same thing again and again. Stress, burnout, post-divorce depression. They advised rest, vitamins, therapy. Evelyn nodded along with them. I told you, she said softly at home. You're too sensitive. You always overthink everything. This is why your marriage failed. You push yourself too hard. Each word made Aisha doubt herself more. Naomi Brooks, Aisha's best friend since college, didn't like what she saw. Naomi noticed how Evelyn spoke for Aisha, corrected her, watched her too closely. This doesn't feel right, Naomi said one evening. You don't look better. You look worse. Aisha brushed it off. She's just worried, she said. She's my mother. Dr. Marcus Hill, Aisha's primary doctor, also began to notice patterns. The symptoms didn't fully fit stress. They came and went in strange waves. Some days Aisha was almost normal. Other days she could barely stand. Still, Aisha trusted her mother without question. She had been trained to. Since childhood, she had learned that disagreeing with her mother meant guilt, that doubt meant disrespect, that love meant obedience. So when her body whispered that something was wrong, Aisha ignored it, because when it came to her mother, she had been taught never to trust herself. It happened in the middle of a mediation session. Aisha was sitting at the table, listening to two people argue over the end of their marriage. She had heard stories like this hundreds of times before. Normally, she stayed calm and focused. But that day, the voices around her began to fade. The room felt hot. Her hands went numb. She tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come out. Then everything went dark. When Aisha woke up, she was on the floor, surrounded by worried faces. Someone was calling her name. An ambulance came. Again. At the hospital, doctors ran more tests. Blood tests. Scans. Heart checks. Everything looked almost normal. Almost. There's still no clear diagnosis, one doctor said. Aisha felt embarrassed. Weak. Like she was wasting everyone's time. Dr. Marcus Hill didn't look convinced. He studied her chart in silence. Later, when Evelyn stepped out to get coffee, he leaned closer to Aisha. I want to run one more test, he said quietly. A toxicology screen. Aisha frowned. For drugs? For chemicals, he replied. Just to rule things out. He didn't tell Evelyn. The results came back 2 days later. Low-dose chemical exposure. Small amounts. Over a long period of time. Aisha laughed when Dr. Hill explained it. That's not possible, she said quickly. It must be something else. She began listing reasons out loud, trying to convince herself. Old pipes in the house. Vitamins I'm taking. Something at work. Dr. Hill didn't argue. He just said, think carefully about your environment. That night, Naomi came over. Aisha told her everything, still half smiling like it was a mistake. Naomi didn't smile back. What if it's not an accident? Naomi asked softly. The question hit Aisha hard. Her chest tightened. That's crazy, Aisha said. Who would do that? Naomi didn't answer. At home, Aisha suggested something small. Maybe we should order takeout tonight, she said casually. Evelyn stopped chopping vegetables. Her smile slipped for just a second. Why? She asked too quickly. Didn't you like the soup yesterday? No, I did, Aisha said. I'm just tired. Evelyn's voice became sharp. I cook because I care. You know that. The air felt heavy. That night, Aisha did something she had never done before. She poured her soup down the sink. Her hands shook as she did it. The next day, she skipped breakfast. At lunch, she threw away the food Evelyn packed for her. Something strange happened. She felt a little better. Not healed. Not strong. But clearer. Less dizzy. Fear settled in her stomach. Over the next few days, Aisha kept avoiding the meals. She felt guilty. Disloyal. But her body felt lighter when she did. Still telling herself she was being paranoid, she ordered a small hidden camera online. She installed it quietly in the kitchen, facing the stove. I'm just being careful, she whispered to herself. But deep down, something had changed. Aisha was no longer just sick. She was beginning to suspect the unthinkable. and she wasn't ready to face what that might mean. Psychological warfare did not begin with shouting or violence. It began quietly in the kitchen. Aisha watched the footage late at night on her phone. The house was silent. Her heart pounded as she pressed play again. On the screen, her mother stood at the stove, calm and careful. Evelyn stirred a pot of soup, then reached into her pocket. She pulled out a small, unmarked container. No label. No warning. She sprinkled a tiny amount into the soup, stirred again, and continued cooking as if nothing had happened. Aisha stopped breathing. She replayed the clip. Again. And again. Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped the phone. Her mind searched for another explanation. Maybe it was salt. Maybe sugar. Maybe medicine. But she knew. The woman in the video moved with purpose, with practice. Aisha sat on the floor and cried until her chest hurt. This was not just sickness anymore. This was betrayal. Deep, personal, unimaginable. The next morning, Aisha tried to talk to her mother without accusing her directly. "Mom," she said carefully, "have you ever added anything extra to my food? Like supplements?" Evelyn looked offended at once. "What are you saying?" she asked. "Are you accusing your own mother?" Aisha froze. "After everything I've sacrificed for you?" Evelyn continued, her voice shaking. "I gave up my life for you." Then came the tears. Evelyn cried loudly, dramatically. She turned away. She refused to speak for hours. When she finally did, her voice was cold. "I never thought my own daughter would betray me like this." Guilt crushed Aisha. Soon the phone calls started. Evelyn called her sisters, her cousins, her friends. "She's not well," Evelyn told them. The divorce broke her. One by one, relatives reached out to Aisha. "Your mother only wants the best for you. You should be grateful. She took you in when no one else would." Aisha felt alone in her own home. Evelyn changed her behavior. She became sweeter. Too sweet. She watched Aisha closely. Asked where she was going. What she ate. How she felt. She changed ingredients. Changed pots. Changed recipes. "See," she said often. "I'm doing everything right." But Aisha noticed something else. The more attentive Evelyn became, the more trapped Aisha felt. Quietly, Aisha began saving food samples. A spoon of soup. A cup of tea. She sealed them and hid them in her bag. She brought them to Dr. Hill in secret. The lab results came back. It was a non-lethal industrial toxin. Cheap. Easy to find. Legal to buy. Dr. Hill looked at her with concern. "This could cause long-term damage," he said. "Infertility. Organ failure. Memory loss." Aisha's stomach dropped. This wasn't about care. This wasn't about love. This was about control. Her mother didn't want her dead. She wanted her weak, dependent, afraid to leave. Aisha finally understood. She was not being fed. She was being owned. The explosive confrontation did not look loud or messy. It looked calm. Aisha set the table herself that evening. She moved slowly, carefully. Her hands still shook, but her face was steady. She placed her phone where it could see the kitchen and dining table clearly. The camera was recording. Evelyn cooked as usual. Soup, bread, dill. She smiled the same soft smile she always wore. "Sit," Evelyn said. "You need to eat." Aisha sat down. She did not touch the food. "Mom," Aisha said quietly, "I know." Evelyn frowned. "Know what?" Aisha reached into her bag and placed the papers on the table. Blood reports. Lab results. Doctor notes. Then she opened her phone and turned the screen toward her mother. The video played. Evelyn watched herself add the substance to the soup. She watched without blinking. When the video ended, the room went silent. Aisha waited for denial. It never came. Evelyn leaned back in her chair and let out a slow breath. "You shouldn't have looked," she said calmly. Aisha's chest tightened. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you do this to me?" Evelyn's face changed. The warmth disappeared. "I was scared," she said. "You were leaving me. First your husband, then this house. You didn't need me anymore. That doesn't give you the right." Aisha started. "I raised you," Evelyn snapped. "I gave up everything. And you walked away like I was nothing." Her voice shook with anger now. "You were becoming too strong. Too independent. I knew if you stayed weak, you'd stay here." Aisha felt tears rise, but she didn't cry. So you poisoned me? She asked. Evelyn looked straight at her. I didn't want you dead, she said. I just needed you small. The words crushed the air out of the room. A knock came at the door. Then another. The police. Evelyn stood quickly. She's sick, she cried loudly. She's confused. She's lying. But the officers had already seen the evidence. Aisha stood up. Her legs trembled, but she did not fall. She did not scream. She did not beg. She did not explain. She picked up her bag and walked past her mother. As the police handcuffed Evelyn, she called out, "You'll regret this." Aisha did not turn back. She walked out of the house that had nearly destroyed her. The door closed behind her. And this time it stayed closed. Healing did not happen all at once. It came slowly, without noise. Months later, Aisha lived alone in a small apartment. It was nothing fancy. One bedroom. A narrow kitchen. Large windows that let in soft morning sunlight. The silence felt strange at first. Too open. Too honest. But it was hers. Her body was still healing. Some days she felt strong. Other days her hands shook, and her head felt heavy. The doctors said recovery would take time. Damage like that did not disappear quickly. Her heart healed even more slowly. Aisha started therapy. At first she barely spoke. She sat with her hands folded, staring at the floor. Over time words came out. She talked about trust. How hard it was now. How every act of kindness made her pause. She talked about motherhood. How confusing it felt to love someone who had harmed her. How painful it was to accept that a mother could choose control over care. Most of all, she talked about guilt. The guilt of not seeing it sooner. The guilt of turning her mother in. Her therapist reminded her again and again. What happened was not your fault. The legal case moved quietly. There were no dramatic scenes. No shouting in court. Evelyn pleaded guilty. The sentence was real, firm, and final. It did not erase the past. It only stopped the future from repeating it. Aisha did not attend the sentencing. She returned to work slowly. At first she doubted herself, but soon something changed. She began taking cases that reminded her of her own story. Families where love was used as a weapon. Parents who controlled through fear and guilt. She listened more carefully now. At home, Aisha learned something simple but powerful. She cooked. She chopped vegetables slowly. She tasted food carefully. She chose what went into her body. Some meals were plain. Some were mistakes. But every meal was hers. No one watched her. No one decided for her. Empowerment did not feel loud or victorious. It felt quiet, steady, earned. Aisha was not healed completely, but she was free. Resonance did not come with applause or big moments. It came quietly in the kitchen. Aisha stood at the stove in her small apartment. The window was open just a little. Fresh air moved through the room. A pot sat on the burner, steaming gently. Nothing fancy. Just rice and vegetables. Simple food. Honest food. She stirred slowly, listening to the soft sound of cooking. Her hands were steady now. She placed the food on a plate, and sat at the small table near the window. Sunlight touched the edge of the table. For a moment she didn't eat. Her chest tightened. Old fear rose without warning. The memory of bowls placed in front of her. The voice telling her to eat. The sickness that followed. Aisha closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Then another. She reminded herself where she was. Who she was. That she was safe. A quiet thought passed through her mind. Clear and firm. Love should not make you smaller to keep you close. She picked up her fork. She took a bite. Nothing happened. No vicinis. No pain. No fear creeping in afterward. Just the taste of warm food. Just her breathing. Just the moment. She kept eating. Each bite felt like a choice. A small one, but powerful. Proof that her body belonged to her again. Proof that trust could begin with herself. When she finished, she washed the plate and set it on the rack. She looked around her kitchen. It was simple. A little messy. Real. Aisha walked to the window and looked outside. The world moved on, busy and unaware. And that was okay. She didn't need to prove anything. She had chosen herself. She was alive. She was aware. She was freed. Hi Bestie's Yellow Heart. Thank you for staying with this story till the end. If it touched you, please like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more powerful stories. Your support means everything. See you in the next one, White Heart.